You're probably watching this video wondering if I can read your mind or not. You know, on my Professor X type shit. The thing is, I just have true insight on what you're feeling right now. Because if you're watching this video, you probably are suffering from, fatigue of sorts when it comes to your artwork. Maybe you feel like art's not for you anymore, or you feel like maybe you've hit a plateau. But I'm here to help you out. What you're feeling right now is a doubt that you can get back into making or creating as a whole. But I say nay. There will come times where your desire to create will be put to the test, and it can be even worse for you when you've pretty much built your entire identity on the foundation of you being an artist. Your art defining all of you, because that's what I did, and that's kind of how it is for me. I feel like my art represents me, so I put that forward. I put that as one of the most high standing tenets of who I am. So I'd say the two of us, or just me, ain't all too different from each other. You may be having issue loving art again, but that's where this guy comes in. Woo! This is where I come in to kind of give you the reasons as to why you may not be liking your art right now. But I feel like this video will help you identify which of these things it may be that's causing you to feel like you don't love art anymore. And once you identify it, it gets even easier at tackling it and moving it out of the way so you can create like you used to. Here are the top 5 reasons you don't like your art.
Taking your art too seriously.
You're trying to have every piece you draw, whatever you paint or do digitally, you're trying to have it be a masterpiece where every time you sit down for a drawing session, you want it to be perfect. You want it to be fully colored. You want it to be fully rendered, fully shaded, fully highlighted. And you don't need to have it like that every time you sit down and draw. It is fine to just sit and make doodles that don't... Golly! It's fine to sit and make doodles that don't serve any purpose and isn't made to resonate with anyone. They're fine existing, you know? An issue I had when it came to taking my art too serious was that I wasn't drawing fun art. I wasn't drawing things that entertained me or maybe even just got a little giggle out of me. There was nothing wrong with making pieces that were deep and sentimental, but I wanted every piece to be like that because I feel like that's the only way my art and how I was as an artist would be taken seriously. But you don't need to do that. You're just fine drawing things just for the sake of passing the time or just to get a little concept down whenever you're not sure of what something will look like. Another issue that took me so long to put into words was that sometimes I'd draw a piece, I'd make something, and it didn't turn out like how I envisioned it. And it caused a lot of disappointment in me because what was I to do? I mean, it was so great in my head, yet my hands were just incapable of making it as great. And it made me feel like maybe my body's not meant for art if it can't even give me the things that I can imagine so vividly in my mind. But that wasn't an issue with me. I didn't realize that before. I felt like my skills were entirely dependent on the accuracy at which I drew something and it resembled how I saw it in my head. But, the thing is, when you make this art, when other people see it, they're not going to be looking at that and seeing your vision. They don't know the vision. All they see is the finished product. And good art with high expectation may yield to you seeing your art as subpar or mediocre, but good art with that expectation removed, it's just good art. You don't have to see it as anything more than just something beautiful to lay your eyes on. Now, number 2, you are not drawing for yourself. You're trying to make all these elaborate pieces and fan art just for the sake of social media. And yeah, it's nice once in a while to post something for the sake of growing as an artist, but you need to keep in mind that art is supposed to be a practice of self-expression. So you should be trying to make art that other people want to see. You should be making what you want to see. And if you are great at that, or you are a true visionary like you should be, then people will flock to your work. They'll look at what you've made and they'll say, I like what his mind can produce. I like what their mind can produce. You shouldn't be worried about what other people are looking for, because to be honest, they don't know what they're looking for. It's your job as an artist, as a creator, as a visionary, to show them what they're feeling, or to show them what you're feeling, most of all, because art is self-expression. When I started, drawing for myself, I drew much more frequently. It made me almost addicted to the practice. It basically covered itself, because one of the ways to improve is just to do it over and over. But you can always be reinventive with it. You can always do more. And drawing every day allowed me to open up my art to new things and be more accepting of the things I produce, even if there were flaws in it. When you sit down and you draw something for yourself, it heals you in a way. And when you get to the point where you're just drawing every day, not even realizing it, you'll improve within a week very much. And it's not like you have to sit down and draw for like hours on end with no break. You can just draw for like 10 minutes and you'll be just fine. Like just 10 minutes each day, just something little, something light, just to, keep your skills from getting rusty. That actually leads into my next point, which is drawing every day. That's one of the things that can stop you from liking your art, is when you're not drawing every day, you can forget, you can get rusty, you can start making pieces that don't feel like you. It'll get more frustrating when you're trying to put your mind onto that piece of paper, or to that digital canvas, or into that painter's canvas. Like I said earlier, you don't have to draw for like immense amounts of time a day. You just need to set aside like 10 minutes to just doodle something, practice some 3D boxes or spheres or perspective spaces, things in scale, color, lines, values, things of that nature. Just put something down for the day. As long as you've created something that day, as long as you've made something for that day, you're fine. You've done your creation quota for the day. It doesn't have to be anything overly crazy or, And when it comes to drawing every day, just get a smaller sketchbook. I made this point in my other video about, dealing with art block in 2024, but with a smaller sketchbook, don't be afraid to draw it. Don't be afraid to fill up a whole page full of just random stuff that may not even be related to one another. Don't be afraid of that. Also, don't be afraid to take notes in your sketchbook. Just write little things like, oh, this looks good, or like add like speech bubbles to characters. Kind of give it some life. It's supposed to be a place where you can put anything in it. I think I said that in my last video. So make it that safe space. Now, the fourth reason that you may not like your art is something that every artist has and will go through. It doesn't matter your skill level, doesn't matter how many years you put into it, it doesn't matter your style or medium. You've got to stop comparing yourself to other artists, because that's only going to give you disappointment every time. It'll make you feel like your work is inadequate, and you shouldn't feel that way. You can admire someone's work, but don't make them the standard. Don't make them in their art style and artwork like the bar in terms of what it should be. Learn from that, but don't use your adoration for it to fuel you into not wanting to create. No, we all want to be like them. We want our art to be all organized and very colorful, or bold, or dramatic, or look all these ways, very striking. But you can't compare your experience in your life and your art to someone else's, because their art is just a culmination of their experiences and memories and the techniques that have worked for them. You just truly can't compare the two, no matter how close you get, even if it comes to mimicry. You still can never truly get what they have. So you shouldn't worry about comparisons, because they're pointless. And if you are going to compare yourself to other artists, it should be only for the sake of wanting to improve yourself and nothing else, just to learn from them and grow. And honestly, if you just keep drawing every day, you will improve at your craft. If you just put time into it and you don't forget yourself, you will improve. It'll happen steadily. It can even happen in leaps sometimes when it comes to if you absorb the information properly. So don't get too discouraged when your work doesn't look like someone else's, because to someone else, it probably looks like how they wish their art could look. That was an awkward pause. What the? Now, number 5 is kind of a reason, but it isn't. The 5th reason you don't like your art is because you struggle to accept whenever it turns out bad. Listen, come in closer. Maybe a little closer. You've got to let your art be bad. You've got to let your art be bad. It's inevitable. It's something that's going to happen. You can't make perfect pieces every time. Sometimes you're just going to deliver boo-boo. But it's normal. It's a part of the process. You don't have to be perfect every time. If you were perfect every time, you wouldn't really be a good artist. That flow, that progression, I think that's what makes it exciting, especially when you look at art in its history and across various movements. Nothing wrong with when your art just doesn't look good. Sometimes you're gonna make a piece and it flops. Sometimes you're gonna make a sketch and it doesn't work. Sometimes you're gonna lay down your foundational lines and it looks like boo-boo. It looks garbage. I'm sorry. That happens to all of us. You gonna have to let your art be bad sometimes. And that's something I struggle with too. I'm gonna be honest. Because I have such high expectations and high hopes for my work that every time I put pen to paper, it's better than the last time I put pen to paper. But no, sometimes you gonna make trash. It's gonna be trash. You just gonna have to let it sit in the bag, bro. That's all. You can't do nothing else but let it do that. And the reason I said it is because when you can finally start to accept your flaws and your bad habits when it comes to art, you can minimize them. You can also grow to use them in a way that will service your art and make it seem better. Play to your strengths. There's nothing wrong with when your art turns out bad because you can't make something perfect every time, especially when you're trying to make something in accordance with your vision. When in reality, it just exists as it is. And there's nothing wrong with existing as or as. You know what I mean? Because with bad art, sometimes you're going to have a real good run when it comes to making pieces. You're going to start making stuff you ain't never seen you make. You're going to be like, oh, I'm in my peak. I'm in my golden era. There is no way. Like, I'm finally comfortable in my art style. I finally know what to do. 2 weeks later, you sit down to draw and you don't even know how to put pen to paper. It happens. That progression is normal because it's not going to be linear. It's not going to be just up and up from here. There's going to be times where you're going to sit down and forget how to draw. That happens to me. Where I sit down and I forget how to even do it. Like, oh, how do I even draw a head? How do I draw this? The lines I put down don't even look like what I'm looking at. That's why, one, I also say draw every day. And second, it comes in waves. You gotta let it pass, bro. You just gotta let it pass. Sometimes your art will be bad, but it will not be bad forever. It will not be bad forever because it will improve, especially if you going at it often enough like you're supposed to. Art can be unforgiving because people are unforgiving, and all art is just, a reflection of ourselves. And it's gonna come points where you think that you're cooked. You think that art isn't for you. It's not your calling. It's not something you can do anymore. And maybe that might be the case, but if you're not willing to let go of it, then it won't let go of you. I'll be honest. That's why I say every day. It doesn't have to be an eternity. It just has to be little amounts of yourself that you give. Just so, you can upkeep it. You don't have to be great all the time. You just have to exist all the time. Just show up. You're not a bad artist. You just expect so much out of yourself than you're capable of. It's good to have high hopes for yourself, but don't spend it all to look good for one little area.